In this video, we're going to be looking at using MIDI channels in KRFT. You can send notes and automation to any compatible app or external software like Ableton or Logic. You can also send directly to hardware. Today I'm using Ableton Live. If you're using other software, the setup should be similar. I've created a basic Ableton Live project with 12 MIDI channels set up ready to use. The download link is in the description. If you're using Ableton 9.6 or above, it's worth enabling Ableton Link so everything can sync up. To enable Link in KRFT, tap the cog in the top toolbar and scroll down to the bottom and tap Ableton Link. Then toggle on the setting in the pop-up window. You'll need to be on the same Wi-Fi network for this to work. Now let's start building our surface. First, we're going to need to make a loop on a new MIDI channel. You'll notice at the top it says select a MIDI device. Tap the MIDI icon to the right and select the device that you want to output MIDI to. I'm using MIDI emitter that appears as MIDI LE USB destination, but depending on how you've connected, this may be different. As this is going to be a drum machine, you'll also want to turn chromatic mode on the keyboard. Now we want some sound. Add a drum machine or another plugin to MIDI channel 1 in Ableton. Now when you press the keyboard, you should be getting some sound. One thing to check is that your MIDI channel in Ableton is set to the same channel number as KRFT, in this case, number 1. Also, make sure its monitor mode is set to in. Now this is set up, it pretty much works the same as if you're using KRFT's internal sound engine. Let's try recording something. So now we have a drum beat. Let's add another MIDI channel for a keyboard. Once you have a MIDI channel set up, the subsequent ones you create will use the same destination and increment their channel. In Ableton, make sure the input on the second channel is set to channel 2 and monitor is set to in. Also, add another plugin so we can make some sound. So now that we've got a couple of loops set up, the other thing I wanted to show you was using dials and morphs to send CC messages via MIDI. Let's add a dial on channel 2. Every dial and morph will have a CC channel associated with it, in this case 0. Let's wire this up to a property on Massive. First, tap MIDI Teach. This will send a pulse out on this CC and mute other MIDI notes that we are sending. You should see a yellow flash in the top right corner of Ableton. If you don't, then make sure Remote is enabled for your MIDI input port on the Ableton preferences. Next, in Massive, right-click the parameter you want to control and click MIDI Learn. You should see the dial start moving slightly. It's now connected. Press MIDI Teach again in KRFT to finish up. When I drag this dial, it will control that parameter in Massive, just like it was controlling something in KRFT's internal sound engine. Morphs are set up in a similar way. This time I'm going to connect this CC to a parameter in Ableton. Notice how the CC number has incremented automatically. Now press MIDI Teach. In Ableton the mapping works slightly differently. Right-click on the parameter you want to control and click MIDI Map. This will bring up the MIDI Mappings panel and should automatically create the mapping. Then, press the MIDI button in the top right corner of Ableton to exit MIDI mapping mode, and tap MIDI Teach and Craft to complete the setup. Let's change the modulator shape of this morph to be a square wave and see how it sounds. We also want to swap the default value and target values, so when we turn the morph off, it will set the volume back to 100. When we turn it on, you can see in Ableton that the volume of this channel is being modulated. Let's see what it sounds like with some loops playing. This should be enough to get you started with MIDI out from Craft. Pretty much everything works exactly the same as if you're using Craft's internal sound engine, but if you're new to Craft, I recommend checking out some of the other tutorial videos. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you. Thanks for watching.